I have said it many times and I will say it again, there is a lot of anime out there. Most anime shows that are known are in some way very iconic, like Attack on Titan, Death Note, even My Hero Academia. They each have that sort of click, if you know what I mean. As for anime films, that's a different story. I don't know how to explain it, but a few anime films feel like you're watching an anime show. Even though the film's duration is between an hour or two, you feel so connected to the story and characters. Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about an anime film and talk about how this particular film was forgotten or in some case never even heard of. So sit back, relax, and let's get right into the video. Let me take you back to the year 2011. Many YouTubers are starting to pop off around this year, and I actually started to get into anime films. I was browsing around YouTube when I came across a trailer for a film that just came out, The Children Who Chase Lost Voices. I ended up watching this film and I ended up really liking it. Fast forward years later and I had completely forgotten about this anime. I had seen so many better anime shows and movies that this film was in the back of my head. It wasn't until I googled anime films to watch that I came across this movie again years later. I watched it now as an adult and I now know the reason why I had completely forgotten about this anime and why it was not really talked about in the anime community when it was released or even now. The Children Who Chase Lost Voices talks about a girl that hears strange noises and music coming from her crystal radio she made. It turns out that crystal came from another world and she ends up being transported to that world, which is filled with strange beasts and monsters along with brave warriors that she ends up befriending along the way of her journey. Now the story may seem really good right off the bat, but I can personally say that I felt like this film was just a bit rushed. As a matter of fact, let me tell you more about this film. This is going to be quite a long video. So grab yourself a snack and let's get right into the video. The film starts off with the main character of the film hiking through the forest. She ends up getting to the top of this hill where she pulls out some sort of radio. She ends up listening to this type of music / sound through the crystal that she inserted into the radio while she's having her snack. We later learn that our main character is named Asuna. She's a kid that lives with her mother. Her father passed away, so her mother works far away and has to work for long periods of time a day, so Asuna does a lot of the things by herself, such as cleaning, eating, and pretty much other housework as well. One day at school, Asuna's teacher told the class of there being some sort of bear wandering around the area and for people to walk home in pairs. For some reason, Asuna's not down with it and she ends up walking by herself. She's walking on some train tracks when she comes across some sort of strange beast. The beast becomes aggro and tries to attack her, but then a boy comes to save her life. He ends up 1v1ing the beast only to get smacked down. Before the beast can get the finishing blow, some sort of light emits from the boy's crystal necklace and ends up taking down the beast permanently. The boy picks up Asuna and takes her away before they can be seen by other people. Asuna ends up striking a conversation with this guy and we learn that the boy's name is Shun. Asuna bandages up Shun and heads home hoping to meet him again next time. Meanwhile, around the same time, there is some sort of group looking into the incident at the train tracks, and this group comes across the corpse of the beast. One day, Asuna's teacher introduced a new teacher that's going to be teaching the class. His name is Ryuji. Now in class, Ryuji talks about the myth of there being another world out there called Agartha. Now this caught Asuna's attention because Shun had told her that is where he's from. Asuna wants to meet up with Shun, so she goes to the place where they last met. He ends up not being there, so she ends up going back home. When she got home, her mother was there. She had come early. A day or two later, Asuna's mother gets a call from the police. It turns out Shun is dead. Asuna ends up being in this bad place until she noticed a boy on top of a hill who looks a lot like Shun. She ends up mistaking that boy for Shun and approaches him only for her to be turned down. The boy's name is Shin, and he's actually Shun's brother. Right then and there, the two are swarmed by some sort of Black Ops squad. Shin takes Asuna with him and bolts while the squad follows them. It turns out that Black Ops squad is called Archangels, and their mission is to find the key to Agartha where Shin knows. The two manage to get away through some sort of cave system, which is actually the leading entrance to Agartha. When the two get to the front gate, they end up getting surrounded by a bunch of Archangel men. One of them has Asuna at gunpoint and forces Shin to open the entrance to it. He ends up doing that and the Archangel man goes ahead with Asuna. but just before the gate closed, Shin ran inside as well. The Archangel guy reveals himself to Asuna and Shin, and it turns out to be Ryuji, Asuna's teacher. It turns out he's actually been trying to find the entrance of Agartha for quite a long time. Shin goes on ahead hoping that Asuna and Ryuji would leave Agartha, since Shin's only mission was to retrieve the crystal necklace that Shin had. I'm gonna say this now, it was probably not the best idea to leave the person who was shooting at you and also who's been looking for Agartha for quite a long time to just leave. But okay. Now everything up until this point is pretty good so far. It's after this point that my view on the film is sort of in a mixed area. Also, if you guys are enjoying the video so far, like and subscribe. It really helps me out and get this video out there. Anyway, so yeah, the three of them are in Agartha. Ryuji has some sort of plan, so he goes ahead into the land of Agartha, while Asuna just follows him. They end up going on a bit of a journey, rationing on food like potatoes. During the night time though, when Ryuji and Asuna are asleep, some sort of strange black creature stalks Asuna while she's sleeping. The next thing you know, Asuna wakes up in this strange place filled with castle-like structure. She ends up finding a little girl that's crying. The girl ends up noticing her and falls into her arm. The girl is actually scared of something and shows Asuna what it is. There were more of these strange black creatures, and they were actually trying to surround her and the little girl. The black creatures though can only move in the shadows and dark areas, which gives the girls the advantage. That is until the day starts to slowly turn to night. They end up being really surrounded until Shin arrives out of nowhere and helps them escape. The reason Shin returned was because there was another crystal like the one Shun had, and it was with Asuna, so he came back to retrieve it. In their escape, Shin ends up getting hurt and Asuna had to save him and the little girl. Yuji ends up finding them knocked out near a lake and treat them to their wounds. After some time, the group ends up finding a village not that far. At first they were not welcomed due to the fact that they were topsiders / outsiders, but it turns out the guy that runs the village is the grandfather of the little girl. He ends up allowing them to stay for the night. During their stay in the village, Ryuji shows his true intentions for being in Agartha. He ends up asking the old man the way to bring back the dead. He ends up telling Ryuji that it's forbidden to bring back the dead in Agartha, but it is possible. He ends up telling him the location of where to bring back the dead, and their journey continues. They end up leaving Shin behind due to his injuries though. They take a boat to their destination, and along the way the black creatures that attacked Asuna's earlier are following them, but they can't attack because even though it's nighttime, they can't touch the water because it would actually kill them. They end up coming close to the destination, but they need to climb down through some sort of pit. Asuna is unable to climb down the pit, so Ryuji leaves her. But before doing so, he trades his gun for Asuna's crystal, seeing how he needs it to bring back his dead wife. Daytime slowly turns to night and the black creatures are coming back. Asuna heads to the lake because the water can protect her. When Shin wakes up, he sees some men that are leaving the village. They're going on the mission that he failed to do, retrieve the crystal that Asuna had, and they would kill to do so. Shin ends up following that group of men and ends up fighting them. Shin ends up getting a beat down, but before they could finish the job, they all sensed that the crystal was taken to the pit, which was out of their jurisdiction and they could not venture forth to go find it. Meanwhile, Asuna's in trouble because all the water in the lake had evaporated and now she had to face down the black creatures. She tries to use the gun that Ryuji gave her, but she can't get her shots on them. Just before Asuna loses consciousness and dies, Shin comes to rescue her. Luckily, the sun comes up and the creatures retreat. Her and Shin end up going after Ryuji, but instead of climbing down, this creature swallows them both whole and takes them down to the pit much more faster. Around the same time though, Ryuji is standing before one of the gods of Agartha and wishes to bring back his dead wife. He uses the crystal that Asuna gave him for his wish to come true, but the god also takes Ryuji's vision as a piece of a human life force, or some crap like that. It turns out though the god needs more than Ryuji's vision, but an actual person. Asuna and Shin arrives around that time, but just then and there the god uses Asuna as the life force to bring back Ryuji's wife. Asuna ends up transforming into Ryuji's wife, but before the wife can be fully brought back, Shin ends up destroying Asuna's crystal, which ends up bringing Asuna back. In the end, Asuna forgives Ryuji and they journey back to the entrance to Agartha, where Asuna ends up heading back home and Ryuji stays behind with Shin. And that is pretty much the end of the film. Asuna ends up living her life like nothing ever happened. And that's pretty much the recap of the movie. Yeah, I'm not good at this sort of crap. I'm not good at doing recaps, so forgive me if I suck at it. this is my first time ever doing a recap. I'm looking at this script right now, and it's 4 to 5 pages long. I've never had to write that much before, let alone speak that much. So forgive me if I suck at this. Now, I'm actually going to talk about the reason why this film was pretty much forgotten, or in some cases never even watched before for some people. Now, most good anime films focus more in towards the story rather than the realism look, like Wolf Children and The Boy and the Beast and The Silent Voice, and many other great anime films as well. These films are very iconic and made their mark in the anime industry, and it was all thanks to the story. It was very laid out and not really rushed. Well, as for this film, there was nothing really iconic. There wasn't that click. Now, visually, the anime did amazing. The fact that the movie visual can stand next to Your Name and Weathering with You is just out of this world. But in a way, I guess it makes sense since this film was made by the same director who made those films. All of this guy's films are designed to look good. He's actually made a bunch of short films before making this film. This was actually his first ever big film that he ever made. You can tell that they put a lot of work into this anime. Visually, story-wise, I feel like it could be laid out just a little bit more better. Now, I'm not saying that every film I watch out there has to be in some way remember or make its mark in the anime industry. No. What I'm trying to say is, when you're making an anime, especially an anime film, try and make something only you can make that you know. Like, I feel like A Girl Going to Another World isn't really memorable without something big. Like, I feel like I could have written this story, you know? Not to mention the main character of the anime does not have any sort of goal. In anime, especially adventure anime, the main character would have some sort of goal that keeps the audience entertained. Whether the main character knows he/she has a goal, or we the audience notice some sort of hidden goal that even the main character doesn't know, that's what keeps us the audience entertained and look forward to. In this anime, when the main character comes to another world, she's just there. Like, there's no goal whatsoever to head home. Instead, she's just there for the ride. The side characters have these actual goals. One wants to bring back his dead wife, so he goes on this crazy adventure. And the other dude, who is a warrior, is sent out to retrieve a crystal rock that the main character has. Another thing I want to add is the fact that there's not that feeling like I want more. Like, when films are done, there's usually that feeling like you want to know more. You want to know the aftermath in a way, or what's next. You don't really get that feeling with this film. Now, I'm not saying that every film has to have this feel like you want more. In fact, for some films or even shows, they have a properly good ending that leaves you satisfied. Now, the ending for this movie is good, but I don't know if I would say I left really satisfied. But you know what, whatever. I actually checked the reviews for this film, and all the reviews are pretty much the same. The anime is not good nor bad, it's more on the okay side. I honestly have to agree with these reviews because I also picture it as a good/okay movie. Now, one thing I usually see after an anime is done is either AMVs or edits. A lot of them. And usually these AMV or edits are particularly for good looking anime or good storytelling anime. And for some reason, I have not seen any short AMVs on The Children Who Chase Lost Voices. I've seen many on Weathering with You and even Your Name, even Garden of Words. But for this film, I have not seen a single AMV/edit. Like, AMV/edits for this anime exists, and nowadays, thanks to TikTok and YouTube Shorts, if you're a fan of anime, you will see a lot of AMVs and edits. But I have not seen one for this film. Now, that's a bad thing. If I've never seen an AMV or edit for an anime that I have seen, then the anime is either bad or okay. And that is a fact, not my opinion. I've mentioned that the director for this anime film is the same one who directed Weathering with You and Even Your Name. He also directed Garden of Words. I've sort of noticed a pattern in these three films, and he sort of stick to this pattern where there's some sort of romance along with some big twists in the middle of these films. And he's basically kept this pattern for the three films he's made. I guess he learned from Children Who Chase Lost Voices on how to make a memorable film. I personally felt like this movie was trying to go into some sort of Studio Ghibli vibe with a whole new world and crazy creatures and magic. It was a sort of failed attempt, and the director knew that. That's why he changed his view on storytelling from crazy another world adventure to romance slice of life with a twist. There are certain sections of the film that are actually really good, but then they slowly become in an okay state over time. Like before Asuna goes to the other world, Everything was good. Everything is laid out well. We get introduced to the characters, along with a proper introduction to the other world that the main character would end up going to, along with a few other stuff as well. It's the aftermath part when Asuna goes to Agartha that I feel like my view on this film sort of dies down. Another thing to mention is that there's not that many characters in this film. Now, a lot of characters does not mean that the anime film is going to be good, but the fact that there's only a few characters in this film, you should at least build them up at least. Now, do I recommend this anime to people? Yeah. If you enjoyed what I just described, then go watch it. It's a pretty good movie. And if you guys already seen it, tell me what you guys think of it in the comments. But yeah, that's the video, guys. If you guys liked the video, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.